Hey friends, Ash here with Gents. Hope everybody out there is doing really well. You ever wonder sometimes if maybe you're living through the death throes of a brand? Like maybe a fragrance brand that at one point was huge, one of the biggest, one of the best out there. Or maybe a smaller fragrance brand that you thought had a whole lot of potential that could be really big one day or put out some hits that people were going to just go crazy for. And then along the way, something happens. Things just don't click. Maybe the fragrances aren't selling. Maybe there's a changing of the guard at the company, but something happens and it's just not working like it used to. Well, today I'm going to talk to you guys about 7 different fragrance brands that are almost dead to me in a way. Now, when I say that, I don't mean that they're going out of business. I'm not saying all their fragrances are being discontinued. What I'm saying is that the fragrances from the house, or just the house in general, aren't really on the radar for me anymore. Their fragrances, when they're released, just aren't hitting anymore. So let's jump into it. Let's check these ones out. And we're gonna kick things off with the doozy. Biggest fragrance house here by far, MUGLER. Yes, the house that brought us Ultra Zest, Pure Havane, MUGLER Cologne, Pure Malt, the original Amen, and many more. To me, it's like MUGLER is just off the radar, you know? As far as men's fragrances go, not really much to write home about. Now, they've always had a little more of a concentration on the ladies' scents, to be fair, but still, men had some amazing choices from the house. And what have they done? They've discontinued most of those ones that you would really want to have. I don't know why. Seems terrible, but that's what they did. And then for 2021, they came out with nothing for men. Nothing. Not a single release. In 2020, they had one. Alien Man Mirage. Yeah. Can't imagine too many of you out there were ultra hyped to get the new Alien Man Mirage. Yeah. I'm so glad they discontinued Pure Malt and Pure Havane and Ultra Zest for Alien Man Mirage. Said no one ever. It's obvious that they sat back and they waited a long time to finally drop an Alien Man fragrance, an Alien Man line. And when they did, it basically hit with all the force of a sad little fart being let out of a deflating balloon. But they didn't give up. They came out with Alien Man Fusion in 2019 and then Alien Man Mirage in 2020. And obviously those hit with such an impact and such a force and changed the fragrance world so much that they didn't release anything last year and they released nothing for men so far through the first half of this year. Absolutely killing it. Although we did also get in 2019 Amen Ultimate. So there's that. Once upon a time, MUGLER was way up here. Every year you had a new Amen to look forward to and you were hopeful that it would be amazing like some of the ones from the past. And that hype, that excitement that you used to have for MUGLER's releases each year, as of now, at least for me, is gone. Next up, CAMUTO. Not exactly the size of MUGLER. Now, CAMUTO has not just stopped making fragrances. They had a release last year and the year before that, and I would bet you almost none of you out there cared. I didn't even realize that they had done a release last year. That's how much I didn't care. They had Homme Intenso, apparently. Yeah. And then Terra Extreme in 2020. Now, fragrance-wise, CAMUTO has always been kind of a budget brand for me. They're the type of scents that you would buy because they're pretty easy to pull off and they don't cost all that much. But they did have some interesting releases like this one, Oud or Smoked Oud. Those are both pretty cool. And then Solaire, a lot of people liked as well for a kind of cheap throwaway, nice citrusy summer scent. And then Terra actually has some resemblance to Versace Eros, again, on the cheap. I kind of viewed CAMUTO as this potential cheapy hidden gem brand. You know, pick them up for $20, $25, maybe $30, end up with a scent that works really well in a lot of situations. But somewhere along the way, all the wind came out of the sails and I just stopped caring about them. And it seems like a lot of people out there did the same. If you go into Fragrantica, I think there's like one review on their release from last year. Yeah, that's not a great sign. And now a brand I love, LOLITA LEMPICKA. Their last men's release came out in 2019. It was this one, Green Lover. Now, some of these houses also have unisex releases that they put out, but I'm talking specifically about fragrances marketed toward men. So they had Green Lover in 2019, which I think is a very good fragrance. Then they had a re-release of LEMPICKA Homme that came out in 2018. And then you have to go back to 2015 to Eau Masculine Eau de Parfum Intense, which is discontinued. So for LEMPICKA for men, you got two options, Green Lover and this one, a re-release of the original. Not too much to be excited about, and when you're going on 3 years since your last men's release, makes me think that you probably don't have too much going on being made for men at the moment, which is a bummer. To me, Lolita LEMPICKA is this kind of interesting small fragrance house, at least for men. The fragrance is made for men, I should say. And I really like how they worked in licorice in a way that you don't really see in designer fragrances. But when you talk about LEMPICKA now, there's really not much to get excited about. You've got a couple options outside of that, not much. And then we're gonna talk about TRUSSARDI. Yes, TRUSSARDI. I like Reflesso. This is a good fragrance, reminiscent of La Nuit de l'Homme. Very pleasing, very nice smelling, and very cheap as well. Now, they've already had a big line of fragrances released this year, but it's a unisex line of fragrances and a little bit higher end than the Reflesso line. So in 2019, they released Reflesso Blue Vibe. Then in 2020, they didn't know what to do and they released Reflesso Blue Vibe, limited edition. That's how you know they really didn't know what to do that year. They were like, whoa, how about the last fragrance we did, but make it a limited edition? And then nothing in 2021. 2017 is when Reflesso came out, and then 2018 they had a flanker called Streets of Milano. So you can see for a few years there, they were consistent with Reflesso, a flanker, and then a limited edition of a flanker they just released, and then nothing. So as far as men's fragrance releases goes from the house, like LEMPICKA, not too much been going on here lately. And they're already a brand that kind of struggles in the US for attention. I mean, they just can't compete with, Dolce & Gabbana, Armani, Versace, all these other bigger houses. And even a fragrance like this one, Reflesso, that, like I said, has a similarity to La Nuit de l'Homme, smells fantastic, pulls compliments, and is very cheap at discounters, still doesn't get the house talked about all that much. In general, the fragrances here are good quality for the price point that you can pick them up for. It's just they were already facing headwinds. And then when you take a step back and kind of stop focusing on releasing any new men's fragrances and trying to get more people's attention, it becomes much harder. So I would imagine that any releases they do going forward probably aren't going to hit with too much intensity in the US unless it is just an insanely awesome fragrance that you can't ignore. But really that goes for every fragrance house ever, doesn't it? All right, the next one is another bit of a doozy. It's Moschino. Yeah, Moschino. Toy Boy here got a lot of attention, got a lot of people talking, blew up the internet, and it came out in 2019. So it has been out for a while. And guess how many men's fragrances they put out since then? 0. That said, Moschino takes a long time between their releases. Their last one before this, marketed toward men, 2013. And that one was Moschino Forever Sailing. Everybody knows that. It was a huge hit. Oh, no, nobody cares about that. That's right. So while the house is big and lots of people know this name, and they do have a lot more fragrances for ladies than men, you would think, or you would hope, that after Toy Boy came out and it got a lot of attention, a groundswell of attention, that they would capitalize on it and start fleshing out more of a men's line. And they did not. They did not. So the question here is, what do we expect from Moschino and when do we expect it? Is it gonna be a Toy Boy flanker at some point in 2025? Or do they come out with some just random crap nobody cares about? Because a lot of the older Moschino fragrances for men are bargain basement bin prices, and for a good reason. A lot of them are kind of crappy. Some of them are decent. Don't get me wrong, some are decent, but not all of them. Before Toy Boy, the one that probably got talked about the most was just Moschino Uomo, this one here. But again, that came out years and years and years and years before Toy Boy. So with Moschino, it's just one of those deals. They don't seem to really care. We'll see when they come out with something new. But any kind of hype that was pushing behind the house and the name from Toy Boy It's pretty much gone away by now. Ooh, next up, Perry Ellis, PE. Now, to be fair here, they've had releases each year as well. They did miss 2021. I don't think they had anything come out from it in 21, but in 2020, they had Perry Ellis Bold Red, which again, nobody cares about. The fragrance that probably got the most attention from Perry Ellis in the fragrance community was this one, Perry Ellis Black Vanilla Absolute, part of their Oud collection. This came out in 2015, and it is a catastrophe that this got discontinued. This is so friggin' good. It will blow your mind that Perry Ellis, of all houses, Perry Ellis put this out. This is one of the better designer vanillas you will ever smell in your life, period. Unfortunately, I think the prices are absolutely out of control. At one point, you get that for about $30. But I bring up Perry Ellis because they came out with this one in 2019. America. It's not very expensive at all from discounters. It has a similarity to Creed Aventus, and the quality is surprisingly good. It is legitimately one of the best cheap Aventus alternatives on the market, period. And yet even this barely made a whimper. Compare that to Mont Blanc Explorer, which a lot of people, if they smell these side by side, will actually think smells worse than Perry Ellis America. Explorer blew up all over the place. People buying Explorer, talking about Explorer. America barely gets mentioned. So with Perry Ellis, you almost just wonder, can they do anything to really break through? And I don't know if they can. And I'm not saying I'm not going to buy anything that they put out. I'm not saying any of these brands that I would not buy a new fragrance. I would actually be pumped for them to put out a new fragrance that smelled awesome. That would be great. But what I am saying, and what I've been trying to say here, is that these brands have lost that, if you want to call it, hype factor, where a lot of people get excited when something is announced. You announce a new Mugler, people probably will be tentatively excited, but the Alien Man line has killed a lot of that off. And the fact that we've not gotten any heavy hitter Amen flankers in a while also doesn't help. Announce a new Perry Ellis, most people probably won't even bat an eye. Last but not least, Mandarina Duck. Now they have had a release this year that I bet almost none of you knows about, called For Him. Now, maybe a couple of you out there are aware of it, but I would wager probably 99% of people watching this video don't know anything about it. And that kind of sums up this whole video, where you can come out with the fragrance, you can have it made and do the presentation and everything, put it all together in a nice package and put it out there for sale, and people don't even know it exists. Now, Mandarina Duck came out in 2020 with the Duckers line, which is friggin' terrible. First off, the name, the Duckers, it's like a Meet the Fockers joke. The Duckers, get it? It was 3 fragrances, and frankly, it looks cheaply done, just with a really inexpensive kind of crappy sticker slapped on the front of these bottles. And I don't think the fragrances released in the Duckers line are really very good. Some of them are actually terrible. Oh, terrible. Then from 2017 to 2019, they had the Let's Travel line, which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, except for it's basically a line of fragrances made explicitly for clearance bins. Just looking at the packaging, you know what you're in for. They look cheap. They smell cheap. And that's not really a great way to build up hype for your brand, to put out fragrances that basically look like they're complete throwaways, as if you yourself, the company, does not care if they're any good. If you don't care about the packaging and the fragrance and you're the one making it, why will anybody else? Which sucks. You go back a number of years ago and Mandarina Duck actually had some great smelling fragrances, like this one, Black Extreme, really good stuff. Or even Mandarina Duck Pure Black. That one as well, for a number of years, has been touted as being a high quality, cheap fragrance, which it is. Somewhere along the way, they decided they were just gonna go cheap instead of quality cheap. And there is a difference. If you pay $30 to $40 for something and then you get it in, you smell it and you think, oh, this is good. I like this. I'll wear this. That's fine. That's good. If you pay that same amount, you get something in and the packaging looks like the company doesn't care. The fragrance smells like the company doesn't care. That will kill the company for you. And then you say, Mandarina Duck, that stuff sucks. And that's pretty much where they're at now, which is sad because they used to be so much better. Well, guys, there we go. Some fragrance brands that to me are almost dead in a way or dying. Now, all of these could pull out of it. They could come out with a fragrance that blows me away. That's just absolutely amazing. But right now, from where I'm sitting, things look iffy. Let me know in the comments below a fragrance brand or brands that are giving you similar kind of vibes. As always, thank you for hanging with me. Thanks for your support. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys later.